The cause of our birth is ego. The purpose of our birth is to experience love. The way through our life is both ego as well as love. If there was no ego, then my individual self could not possibly have incarnated as this individual person with this personality, with a certain style of hair, with a certain voice, with a certain thumbprint. I am an individual because of my individual ego. If there was no individual ego, then my individuality would not exist, both physically as well as non-physically. So ego is, was, will be necessary for my survival. Ego is needed for my survival. The purpose of ego is self-preservation. Ego needs to preserve me and preserve itself. And it has a host of different tools to preserve itself and preserve me, including fear, including avoidance of pain, so that it can preserve itself. Okay? All well and good. The cause of life is ego, but the purpose of life is not preservation of ego. Ego is just like a visa. The purpose of travel is not to retain and preserve my visa. You know, a lot of people come to the US to get a green card, and once they get a green card, they come to the US so they can preserve their green card. They're not coming to US for anything else. Now they're coming to just to get a stamp so that their green card status will be preserved. But then why did you need a green card to start with? It's like a chicken or egg. The cause of my birth, my individuality, is the ego. But the purpose of birth is not individuality. The purpose of birth is to experience divine love, oneness with divine love, realizing my true nature, which is divine love. And for that yoga, for that union to take place, the ego has to die, the ego has to disintegrate. But the purpose of the ego is self-preservation. The cause of the birth is ego, but the destination of birth is not ego. But the way through life is ego. So we have this very interesting situation. Ego is like a boat. I need this boat to cross the river, to go from this end of the river to that end of the river. I cannot start my journey to cross the river without a boat. So I need this individuality, I need this ego. And I also need this ego to go through life. But once I get to the other end, I have to let go of this boat. I cannot drag this boat once I reach the shore. I have to let go of that boat. I have to let go of that sense of individuality. I have to let go of this attachment to this boat, to this individuality, so that I can attain the purpose of life. Like a soap bubble, the air is trapped inside the soap bubble, so it can say, oh, I am this limited self. The soap bubble, which is the ego, identifies itself as the air trapped inside the soap bubble. But for the air trapped inside the soap bubble to realize that trapped air inside and the trapped air outside is actually the same, it has to burst the soap bubble, the identity of self, which is ego. It is a very oxymoronic thing. Well, how can I realize this oneness when I am no longer in existence? And also, as long as I continue to exist in this limited individual ego self, I will not be able to experience this emergence. Such a beautiful mystery. Ego is not a bad thing after all. Ego is an essential way through life, as ego is the cause of this birth, but I have to let go of it. This sense of individuality, this self-serving purpose of self-preservation of the ego, to reach the purpose for which the ego was given in the first place. And when I let go of that false identity of self, identifying myself as this ego self, what am I telling? I so much love myself that I'm willing to let go of this ego. That's called self sacrifice. Sacrificing the individual self so that I can experience and love and be and merge with the big self.